You are looking live.
Here comes the play. Goodman at the free throw line. Jumper.
He broke his ankles. He is Houdini.
Mickey Mantle don't care about you, so why should you care about him? Nobody cares.
That's not a good call. No.
You don't like that call.
I don't like that call.
Not so fast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Mike's Memories. This is Season 1, Episode 2, where we were going to continue the stories of going to Maryland basketball games in the Upper Deck era. I had originally planned to do both of them in the first episode, but the recording of that first one had gone on a little longer than I had first thought, so I had made 2 episodes, simple enough. Before we get started, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you did enjoy the video, share it with your friends and family, all that good stuff as well if you did enjoy. Check the description down below for my Twitter link, the link to my Twitter feed, where I make all kinds of announcements and stuff like that, picks against the spread, it's Twitter, I use it. Also, in the description below is my link to my Twitch. Go follow the Twitch at twitch.tv/Mikes_madness. No apostrophe, just Mikes, like, I don't know, like, I guess plural mics or something. I don't know. But, yeah, go check that out. There is one stream that is up there right now. It got a good amount of views. Probably going to use Twitch more frequently. So that's something that you're definitely going to want to go check out as well. So, yeah, welcome back to Mike's Memories. This is episode 2 of season 1, episode 2 of the Upper Deck era stories. And in the first episode, if you haven't seen the first episode, go check that out. It was great. I loved recording it, and some real good stuff there. You're not gonna want to miss that. And that'll be in the description as well. So in this episode, we're going to get to my first Duke game. Which that's crazy, so we're gonna get into that. My first Duke game, and if you're a Maryland fan, or you used to keep up with college basketball or stuff like that, you would know that when Maryland was in the ACC, Maryland and Duke was a huge rivalry, an absolute monumental rivalry, especially in the years under Gary Williams. That was the pedestal every year, to beat Duke. Like, that was the goal. Sure, you wanted to get to the tournament, but getting to the tournament was almost as important as, or beating Duke was almost as important as getting to the tournament. Like, getting to the tournament is a pretty high, is a pretty substantial goal. That's a big goal to have, and but beating Duke was almost as big as making the NCAA tournament. Everybody every Maryland fan, you hated Duke, okay? If you didn't hate Duke, it was borderline. I think my dad told me, he goes, if I ever catch you, excuse me, said, if I ever catch you rooting for Duke, I'm gonna disown you. And he was just kidding around, obviously, but maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, so this was the first Duke game, 2013. Duke was ranked 2nd in the country. Seth Curry was on the team, not Steph Curry, but Seth Curry, Steph's brother. Mason Plumlee was on the team, or one of the Plumlees. I can't remember which one. I think it was either Mason Plumlee or Miles Plumlee. What was the other guy's name? Quinn Cook. He plays for the Lakers. He was on Duke at the time, and I believe there's another pretty household name that was on Duke as well. But Maryland was unranked at the time. I don't think they ended up getting ranked, but they were unranked. They didn't have a great team. They didn't have a bunch of 5 stars or anything like that. It was Seth Allen, Nick Faust. Was it Nick Faust? I think it was. Yeah, it was Nick Faust, Seth Allen, Des Wells. I think Jake Layman was on the team at the time. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see any other names that come to mind. I think Charles Mitchell was on the team. This was not the best Maryland team that we fielded ever. And So after the national anthem, they played the hype video and everything like that. And if you've ever been to the basketball game, you know what I'm talking about. You know, they play the intro video, and the place starts losing their mind and going crazy. But this time the place was going going a little, not a little, but they were going a lot crazier than normal. They were shouting some things, and if you know your bad words, you can kind of fill in the blank there as what that says. They kept screaming that. They were playing the Seven Nation Army song, you know, the oh, and then after that they would go Duke, you know, and then like with the song they would say that, and it was a great atmosphere. It was probably one of the best basketball atmospheres that I've ever been to. Apart from another one when we were there for College Game Day recently last year, but we'll get to that in a different. That's a different story to tell. We were still in the upper deck though, but even in the upper deck, it was a crazy game, or it was a crazy atmosphere rather. And you know, there's always that one guy, and if you go to sporting events and you go to football games or whatever, it doesn't matter. This isn't any sport. There's always that one guy who thinks he can go out there and coach the team, and you know who I'm talking about. You know that guy, the guy who thinks he could be John Calipari or Vince Lombardi. Like, you know who I'm talking about. This guy thinks he could be Pat Riley. Like, you know, he thinks he has the perfect playbook to beat anybody. And so he's up there, and again, this was a row or two behind us, and not only was he trying to coach the team or whatever, like trying to, you know, say no, like do this, like he was basically trying to coach the team from the 300th row of the stadium. But not only that, but it was either the same guy or his buddy that he went to the game with was acting like he was calling the game, like, you know, like commentating it, like he was acting like he was Dickie V up there, you know what I mean? And like that's also another guy that you know at the sporting events, always thinking he's on ESPN with the headset calling the game live. You know, everybody's watching him and everything. And he was getting on our nerves, but we didn't really say much to him because, you know, sometimes you just gotta learn to let annoying people be annoying, and you can't get into it with everybody who's being annoying. But this one guy, I think, broke the took the last straw, you know, like with Dad. And again, Dad hadn't said anything to him prior to this, but I think Mom was at the game too, because we had a set of 4 seats. It was a little late. My sister was real young. Again, this was 8 years ago. So yeah, she was real young. It was late. I think it was like a 9 o'clock tip. So we had dropped her off at my grandfather's house, and it was my mom, my dad, and I all went to the game. Again, this was my first Duke game. I think it was actually my only Duke game as well, because after that, Maryland went to the Big Ten. But yeah, this was my first and only. I believe it was my first Duke game. I'm pretty sure it was. I think so. And if it wasn't my first, it was definitely my last Duke game, because I think that was the last time we played Duke at home before we went to the Big Ten. But yeah, anyway, this guy was getting on our nerves all game. He was being annoying, but we didn't say anything to him, as we mentioned. But he was trying to give his 2 cents on every little thing that was happening. And Seth Curry was a sharpshooter, was a 3-point sharpshooter. That's what I'm looking for. And in the first half, we weren't playing great defense on him, and it was either Nick Faust or Seth Allen who was defending him, and the guy behind us was like, well, you know, maybe that's not such a great move by Turgeon, you know, having this guy defend him, and maybe Turgeon doesn't know what he's doing, and you know, my dad kind of like, he has a lot of respect for coaches of his favorite teams. Not Coach K. We hate Coach K. But even though that we didn't like North Carolina either, we still had some respect for Roy Williams. Like, you know, we have some considerable respect for coaches, just because of the amount of heat that they always take from the fans. And, you know, he had the same respect for Lefty Driesell and Gary Williams, and he was going to do the same for Mark Turgeon. Now, it didn't make any difference to Gary Williams or Mark Turgeon. Like, they could give two blanks about what my dad thinks about them, I'm sure. But, you know, still, like, it was kind of like one of those lessons, like, you respect, you show respect for everybody, and that kind of thing. But, so the guy started criticizing Turgeon, like, you know, oh, maybe he doesn't know what he's doing. Maybe Turgeon's not a good coach. And my dad turns around and goes, well, maybe you're not a good fan. Like, just absolutely yelled at the guy, and it was great. I loved it. It was amazing. I was like, good. we finally stepped at this guy. And I think after that, I think the guy toned it down. Like, the guy definitely stopped being Dickie V and being Vince Lombardi for the game. Like, that was enough out of John Wooden for the game. And it was just great because, like, the guy had been getting on our nerves all game, and that was just the last straw, saying, "Oh, maybe Churchill's not a good coach." And that was in the first half too. I think my dad had lost his cool with the guy before halftime. But yeah, that was great. And another memory from that game was Seth Curry was bringing up the ball, and I think we did eventually make the switch on defense. I think Dez Wells had started guarding him, and it was about 5 minutes left in the game, I believe. And Dez Wells stole the ball from Seth Curry. Stole the ball, went on the fast break, and just laid down the hammer dunk, like just a huge dunk, whatever you want to call it, tomahawk slam, bringing down the hammer, whatever you want to call it, rim racking, whatever. It was an absolute thunderous dunk that Dez Wells had just laid down, and that dunk, I think, upped our lead to 5 or 7, and the place just absolutely lost it. Duke had called a timeout. They did something called it started a tradition, the flash mob, and that was when, like, the flash mob was a big trend. And Maryland's student section had done it. Like, at that timeout, they just pulled it out of absolutely nowhere. Like, nobody was expecting it. And it actually had turned into a yearly tradition. And now, it is like a kind of like an announcement when what game is going to be the flash mob game. And everybody's kind of expecting it now when it happens. But that was the first time they did it, and nobody was expecting it because nobody, flash mob, the meaning of that is like it comes out of nowhere kind of thing. So, nobody knew what was happening, and this one guy with a motorcycle helmet, I think it was like a Maryland Pride motorcycle helmet, just got up. I don't know where he came from. He stood up, went to the middle of the student section on one of the stairwells. And he just started doing dancing. Like, he just started dancing. And, like, the whole student section was obviously in on it. And the whole place just, like, the whole student section, like, just got up and started doing a flash mob in the middle of the timeout. And the rest of the fans, like, started absolutely going crazy, like, cheering. And just, I thought the roof was going to pop off. Like, the place was probably the loudest I've ever heard Xfinity Center. Probably ever. And, like, the place was just going absolutely crazy. And, again, probably, and I think they did break out the blank Duke chants once again. And, again, if you're a Maryland fan, you know how much we hated Duke back when we would play them every year. And then another thing I remember from that game was with about 2 seconds left, we were up. And you know how basketball games get. When you're up, When you're up late in the game, the other team fouls you to get the ball back, and you know the whole song and dance that goes on there. Well, we had, I think we were up 81 to 79 or something like that, and there was 2 seconds left. And there was like 2.8 seconds left or something like that. And Seth Allen was at the free throw line. And we were up 81 to 79. And, look, you make one, you're up by 3, that's great. You make both, you're up by 4, and you pretty much clinch the game. Or maybe it was I'm pretty sure it was 81 to 79 or something like that. And Seth Allen's at the free throw line with 2.8 seconds left. Two of the biggest free throws this man has probably ever taken in his career. And what does he do? He sinks them both. We're up 83 to 79 or maybe it was 78. I don't know what it was, but it was a huge set of free throws that he made. He made both of them. So with 2.8 seconds left, we're up 83 to 79 or 78, or like those free throws had practically won the game. And the place just went absolutely berserk again. Like there was a lot of those moments where the place just the crowd went wild, and that was one of them. And then Duke heaves up some late shot, something like that, and they get up to 81. But yeah, like that was probably, looking back at it, that was probably just overall probably the best atmosphere of at a basketball game that I had ever been to. And I think after the game, my dad turned around to the Turgeon criticizer, and I think he said something like, "Not a bad coach after all, is he?" Because like he had made a lot of great adjustments at halftime, even though we were winning at halftime, as you can see down there in the box score. He made a ton of in-game adjustments, halftime adjustments, anything that was required to beat Duke. And my dad turns around to the guy and like said something snarky, because like the guy was still been putting in his 2 cents every now and then during the second half, but not as much as the first half. And my dad turned around and said something snarky to him at the end of the game, which was really funny. He was like, "Not such a bad coach after all, is he?" Or something, something like that. And I don't think the guy said anything to him. The guy just got up and left. But that was funny. That was a real great memory of just being at the game. And my dad yelling at a stupid guy behind us was another great memory of that game as well. And this was Maryland they called it Maryland Madness. A lot of other teams call it Midnight Madness. But it's called Maryland Madness. Pretty much, we call it something else, because in a way, not in a way, but this is the facts. This isn't like hypothetically or whatever, but Lefty Driesell, the legend Lefty, he started Midnight Madness. And Jay Billis and Reese Davis and Jay Williams are not going to tell you that. But Lefty Driesell started Midnight Madness. That all comes from him. John Calipari didn't start it. Coach K didn't start it. Roy Williams didn't start it. Mark Few didn't start it. John Wooden didn't start it. Lefty Driesell started this, and there's a whole backstory to it and everything. And I'm not gonna get into the whole backstory of it, because that's not everybody's thing. But if you want more knowledge on that, go check it out. Look it up, Lefty Driesell, Maryland Midnight Madness, all that good stuff. So anyway, this was 2013, and they had it at Cole Fieldhouse. And if you don't know what Cole Fieldhouse is, that was the stadium that Maryland used to play basketball in. It was a smaller stadium than Xfinity Center. But here's the picture of Cole Fieldhouse. This is not a game. Like, this was the picture of the Midnight Madness. Like, this was the picture of Cole Fieldhouse at Midnight Madness. So that's a picture of Cole Fieldhouse Midnight Madness. It was the first time that they had any basketball event there since they left for Xfinity, which I think they left in 2000. I think their last season there was the 2002 season. I think when they won the championship, like, that season was their last season at Cole. So yeah, they had the Maryland Madness there, and even though they call it Midnight Madness, a lot of the teams don't start right at midnight. It's one of those things that, I think they started about like 10:30 or 11 or something like that at night, and but the main stuff gets started at midnight. Like, that's when they introduce all the new players, and this is probably worth mentioning. It's in late October, like right before the season starts, and the main event, like the scrimmages between the new players, the introduction of the new players, all happens at midnight. All the main stuff is at midnight. So again, this was 8 years ago, so I was still a little bit on the younger side, and I had thought in my mind, because we had been going to Maryland basketball game. I had been going to Maryland basketball games pretty regularly for about 4 or 5 years. And what I'm used to is you have a set of tickets that tell you what seat you have, and you sit there, right? So makes sense. To an 11-year-old, that makes sense, right? So we got in the stadium, and my dad goes over to one of the entrances to a section, and he just keeps walking down. He just keeps going. And I said, "Dad, these are pretty good tickets." And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, I said something like that, or I think I was questioning. I was like, are we allowed to go down here, kind of thing, like, because I was so used to sitting higher up, and you kind of had to stay there. You can't go wandering around to other seats or whatever. And so I said, "Dad, are you sure that we're allowed to go down here? Like, don't we have tickets? Like, don't we have a set seat of tickets?" And he goes, no, son, not for this event. He goes, for these kind of things, you just keep going until someone stops you. And, well, it turned out that we, in our season ticket endeavors, we did keep going until somebody stopped us, and nobody really stopped us. But, yeah, so it was kind of funny, like, and at the time, I didn't really think too much of it. I just kind of chuckled and said, oh, okay, like, I was just happy that we were able to sit so close. And, you know, one of those, this is another one that, looking back at it, it was another, like, not necessarily a teachable moment, but it was definitely something that, like, I had learned from. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you cannot always be so confined to a set of rules. And, you know, strict rules you got to follow, obviously, but what I mean is, for things that, like, if you're unhappy about the way something is, right? Like, so let's say, let's say you're unhappy with your grades at school, for example. You know, like, keep trying, obviously, but, you know, keep going and talking to your teachers, talk to your parents, like, you know, keep, you know, and even, like, opportunities, like staying after school or you know, like, tutoring, or, you know, whatever, like, trying to get extra help. Like, you keep going until somebody stops you, and either like, you know, in the example that I'm using, maybe somebody stopping you is saying, okay, listen, like, you know, stop asking or whatever, like, let's get you some help, or you know, whatever, you know what I mean, like, or if you know, if you have a certain situation and you're trying, and you're not happy with the situation and you want things to be better, like, keep trying, obviously, like I said, but, you know, keep going until somebody stops you and says, look, like, whether them stopping you is like stopping you to see how they can help you, or, you know, like anything like that. Like, if you're unhappy about something, just keep going. Just keep, like my dad said, keep going until someone stops you. And, you know, especially in like a job career, you know what I mean? Like, if you, like, having a job, sure, it's great that you have a steady job and everything, but there's always room to move up, right? And there's always room to, you know, to get promotions and get raises and all that kind of stuff. So, like, if you know, you have a job and you really want to get, you know, a different position, like, keep asking, like, keep working at it, like, keep trying to get into that position, try to get that interview or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, they always say that the squeaky cog gets the grease, or what is that? The squeaky gear gets the grease or whatever. Like, the, you know, whatever, the squeaky door gets the oil or whatever. Like, you understand what I'm getting at. Like, don't just sit there and be okay with something. You know what I mean? Like, keep working at it and keep going. And like my dad said, keep going until someone stops you. And that is something that I actually did kind of, and he had kept saying that a lot more, and more so, in like that kind of evolved into a little joke that we have. But you know, just kind of looking back at where we are now, compare in relation to seats at basketball games, in relation to where we were, you know, 10 years ago. And I did kind of take that as a lesson that I've used in my own life. Like, and an example of that is in high school. I had taken journalism class, right? But not only that, like, I took up sports writing in high school. During that journalism class, you know, I would go to the Kennerdale sporting events, and I would you know, take notes on it and you know, do write-ups of the game or whatever. But I wouldn't just stop there, you know what I mean? Like, you know, after that, I would try to get interviews with the coaches, and that wasn't always easy because some of the coaches were also teachers. So yeah, that's a tough schedule to kind of you know, get in and work with. But sorry, excuse me. But, you know, yeah, I kept trying. You know, I kept going until I just kept going, and some things you just keep going, and there's not really something that can stop you. But, you know what I mean? Like, keep going, like working out, like, keep going. You know what I mean? Like, it just, if there's not a reason to stop, why would you stop? You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of overall lesson of that. But other than that, like, I was kind of like an all-in-one type deal. You know what I mean? Like, not only would I write about the games, but I had to take pictures. I had to get pictures for the stories for the online newspaper at school. And you know, being in the student section is great. Like, I can take pictures on my phone and everything. But the journalism teacher said, you know, it would really be, and she kind of meant this in a like just a hypothetical thing. Like, she wasn't blaming me for not having the best pictures, but she was just kind of saying, like, man, I really wish there was a way that we could get better pictures. And you know, this was quite recent, so as we had gotten closer in Maryland basketball games, I kind of thought, like, well, wait a minute, if we can get really close to the action at Maryland basketball games, why can't I get that close at Kennerdale football games? And Kennerdale is in the middle of nowhere. Like, there's less people that go to Kennerdale than probably, you know, go to your local Rudders or whatever, your local gas station. Like, it's in the middle of nowhere, so it's, you know, so it's not like exactly, you know, a not going to make the national headlines. So I said I have an idea, and I said, is there any way that I could get on the field? And I didn't mean on the field like where they play football, but I meant like on the sideline. And she goes, well, you know, that is interesting. She goes, let me ask the football coach. And so she went and emailed the football coach or talked to him, and he was a teacher, so she may have even talked to him in person. I don't know. I didn't get all the details, but so yeah, she had gone and talked to him or emailed him or whatever, and said, hey, is there any way that Michael can get on the sideline for some better pictures for the story he's writing for the football game? And he said, you know, yeah, sure. He goes, you know, I'm sure he wasn't just like, yeah, whatever, but you know, I'm sure he talked to the athletic director or whatever, and you know, he basically said, you know, he sent me an email saying, you know, here's this. He said, you know, you might want to print it out or whatever in case anybody tries to tell you that you can't be down here. And basically just telling me that, you know, yeah, like you can come out on the sideline and take pictures and you can ask questions if you want. Just, you know, don't be coming up to me in the middle of the game and, you know, trying to ask me questions or whatever. And, you know, it's just basic etiquette stuff, like basic manners and just being polite. And I was like, yeah, okay, of course. You know, it wasn't anything like earth-shattering, like, what, I can't come up to you and ask questions during the game? Like, I wasn't going to complain about that. Like, it was just basic things that, you know, common sense type deal. And so, like, I went from getting pictures from the student section to getting pictures from the sideline just by talking to different people and and I was able to improve the quality of pictures in the stories that I had written just by talking to people and you know, being more ambitious and just seeing what I could do. And so like that's just kind of like a lesson, like, you know what I mean? Like, you put limits on yourself, you know what I mean? Like, nobody comes out and puts a set of limits on you right away. Like, you limit yourself to possibilities. Like, most of the time, whether it is a job field or no matter what it is, most of the time the possibilities of something are pretty much endless. You just have to work at it and you know, talk to people and come up with ideas and communicate. So, you know, that quote that my dad said, you know, keep going until someone stops you, I kind of took that, like, you know, that's just one example. Like, I've used that kind of philosophy in a couple other things. But, you know, that was one of those things that, like, I looked back at that kind of, you know, jokingly statement, and I said, you know what, well, all right, let me keep going until someone stops me. You know what I mean? Like, and if the coach said no, he's not allowed on the sideline for some rules, I would have been like, okay, that's fine. I wouldn't have gone and done it anyway. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so, you know what I mean? Like, but here's the thing. I would have never been able to get on the sideline for better pictures, for my story or whatever. I would have never been able to do that if I hadn't communicated with my teacher. You know what I mean? Like, I kept going and just communicating, but had I not done that, I would have never gotten to where I got to. So, like, if there's something that you got to do, and like, or that not you have to do, but like, if there's something you want to do, like, you want to get a different position at your job, go communicate with somebody. You know what I mean? Like, keep communicating and keep trying until someone stops you and says no, right? Because if Like, what's the worst that can happen? Somebody says no. Okay, then they said no, you got your answer, but you're never going to get an answer if you never ask and you never try. So that was probably like, again, at the time, it wasn't something that I had taken, a huge thought of, but looking back at it, that is definitely something that has given me a lot of I wouldn't say motivation, but it is definitely something that has given me a lot of, it is something that I do look back on quite frequently and say, well, keep going until someone stops you, right? Like, so, and it's worked out in my favor pretty well. So, and again, like, don't be annoying, like, don't be a jerk about it. Just, stay within your limits and keep going until someone stops you. You know what I mean? So, and that has proven pretty well for me so far. And, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to break down every single time I've used that philosophy, but that was kind of a something that I look back on as a lesson that I learned, and something that I do keep with me a lot in life. So yeah, there are plenty of lessons that I have learned just from going to basketball games with my dad. And you might think, well, going to basketball games with your dad is just going to see a sports game. There's nothing much to it, but it's more than that. It's bonding with my dad. It is taking the little jokes that he makes or taking what he does and learning from it. Whether it's learning from, like in the last episode when I said that he wasn't necessarily listening to me when I said I would be sick, like, whether it's learning from something like that or learning from something that he just made a joke and was like, keep going until someone stops you. There's a lot of things that I have learned from him just by going to watch Maryland basketball games with him. And it's kind of funny because like most of the lessons that I learned have absolutely nothing to do with basketball. You know what I mean? Like, it has nothing to do with going and going and getting, going and watching a basketball game. A lot of the lessons don't have a whole lot to do with it. It's just it's just like everybody learns lessons somehow, and this is just how I've learned lessons. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that like I always look back on and have a great memory of. And we're going to get to more of that, more and more in each episode. Next episode, we're going to dive a little deeper into the StubHub era. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, StubHub era, you're like, what are you even talking about, man? Go and check the last episode, and you'll understand. Trust me. So the link to that episode will be in the description down below. And other than that, I do thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that great stuff. And other than that, I will see you all in the next video. I'm out. See you later.